Kelly, are we ready to go? Yes, ma'am. Welcome, everybody. The 21st of April. I can't believe it. We had some snow a few days ago. Not enough, in my opinion, but we had some snow. Last one, perhaps. Welcome to everyone, Kiwanians and guests. A few announcements before we begin our program. We, first of all, want to show our appreciation for our members, especially those who are celebrating anniversaries this week. Peter Bisbecos, I mispronounced your name, Pete, but he has been a member for 34 years. He was also a former Abe Lincoln Scholar. Also, Rich Schreiner, 34 years, an Abe Lincoln committee member, also a presenter at our 2022 event. Connie Allman, 28 years. Monica Kozlowski, 5 years. Also, I'll give a shout out to Laura Holloway, Lou Drexler, and Steve Willem for their leadership as club sponsors. The Speedway Key Club and Perry Meridian Key Club received special awards at the Indiana District Leadership Convention for Distinguished Secretary, Advisor, and T-shirt award. May 1 is the registration deadline for the Kiwanis International Convention in Indianapolis, scheduled for June 8th through the 11th. This is really exciting that we're having this convention in Indianapolis. So it's so close. Let's try to get a number of us in attendance at that event. Be sure to sign up to attend and even volunteer. Also, a fun part of that convention is the Friday night special June 10th at the Slippery Noodle, hosted by the Indiana District. Also save the date for our golf outing on September 20th. And another thing, you golfers, I wish I were one, who want to get out there on the tees before the September 20th event, the Kiwanis Club of Perry Township is welcoming foursomes at their 7th annual outing on the Smock Golf Course on June 23rd. And although I'm not a golfer and have not been there, I understand that the Smock Golf Course is really a beauty. And for those of you who are avid golfers, you should really think about joining the Perry Township Club. They're very supportive of us. They send some of their members attend our events, and it would really be nice to reciprocate and participate in their 7th annual outing on the 23rd of June. For those of you who weren't at last week's Zoom, Trina is going to share with us an update on our next few meetings.
Perfect, thank you. So next week we're back in person for, let's just call it the homestand. We're going to have 4 in-person meetings in a row, kicking it off with David Woods, a sports writer with Indy Star. It's been a couple of years since he's had a chance to visit with us. He's got some surely new and exciting stories to tell. The following week, we'll have Susie Townsend and Carrie Lambert. It's National Tourism Week. So friends from Visit Indy and the Indiana Tourism Association. One that I'm going to ask you all to put on your calendars is Thursday, May 12th. It's our celebration of service leadership. Our Circle K, kids, Key Club, Builders Club, all of that are going to be in the house with us. And it's really important that we show them a lot of support for the programs and celebrate the work that they've done. You're going to hear some amazing stories. All of our upcoming programs are on our website, indykiwanis.org. There's a calendar on the homepage. You can scroll down. You can also check the newsletter. But a couple that just got added today. We have a tentative visit from Butler's new football coach in August ahead of the start of their season. And then just confirmed middle of September on the 15th, Coach Parkinson the new women's coach at Butler. If we can turn out good attendance for those, we're working on getting Thad Mata. So need you to rally the troops. Again, great list of programs all the way into the fall. Check the website for the complete listing. Back to you, Carol.
Thanks, Trina. Who wouldn't want to come to those meetings? The programs sound awesome. And thank you. Greg is going to give us some information about Earth Day and introduce our speaker. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you. And Trina, thank you for those great update of great speakers. A lot of things have been going on in the world. You know, besides the war, there's a lot of information locally that we think about. And I'm sure David Woods will be a really, really informational person. Well, today, tomorrow's April 22nd. Earth Day was a dream of Senator Nelson and Senator Muskie to, when the Cuyahoga River was burning and things were really kind of one-sided as far as environment was concerned. In the 1970s, I remember Dunn Meadow in Bloomington full of activists complaining that as we do economic growth, we have to protect the environment. Well, we're still right there, aren't we? So what I wanted to do today was to introduce to you Eric Koehler, who's the CEO of the Jewish Community Center. And every several years we've had a Earth Day at the facility at 6700 on Hoover Road, and it's been very successful, rain or shine. Many booths, many ideas about the Earth. So Earth Day really is an annual celebration of the achievements of the environment. And when you step back, there have been a lot. I mean, there's always litigation, there's always this and that going on back and forth. But in the end, the environment is certainly and Earth Day is really a big part of the United States and the world today, tomorrow. One of the interesting things that we try to do, before I turn this over to Eric, is that we want to broaden the meaning of what environment means, such as greening of schools, making them more energy sustainable, climate issues, jobs, energies, all the things that renewable energy, things that we talk about and debate is in this open society. And kind of diversify the movement of civil engagement of not just the gross national product, but what does that mean when air pollution is going into the air? Do we calculate that as a negative part of gross national product? And one of the things that the center has been doing, the Jewish Community Center and partner organizations, and there are many, is to mobilize communities to think about and work together to try to make the world a better place. Even with all its problems, we have some great things going on around the world that we don't hear about necessarily. It may not only be in the United States or Canada. Education, energy efficiency, food and agriculture. Of course, war doesn't help that along. But there are success stories out there. There really are. And it's not all negative. So I wanted then to turn this over to Eric Koehler, who's the CEO at the Center, for his description of what we have been doing. It was created a few years ago, Bruce Sclair and Martha Kravitz, myself, the Ephraimsons, and others, to become a focal point for the community for interesting things like, why should we have a solar roof? Why should we have a roof that reflects the heat? I mean, these are things that are basic. Why should we clean up everything we can on the roads? But besides that, the center has had an awareness of stewardship, which is part of all of our faiths of making the world a little bit better, tikkun olam, and as far as I'm concerned. So Eric, please introduce yourself, and let's hear all the good things that are going to happen on May 1st, when several thousand people adjourn to your site. And it is a free event, but it is an event that is for the community. Eric?
Greg, thank you so much. Rennie, thank you so much. And Greg, thank you so much for including the JCC in today's program. And I've been the CEO here since 2017. Earth Day has been going on. This is our 10th season. We had a 2-year break during COVID. But prior to that, we would typically see thousands of community members from all over the neighborhoods and 80 to 100 vendors to participate in Earth Day at the JCC. For Earth Day at the JCC, it's different than some other Earth Days. What makes this program different is it's geared towards educating folks and hands-on experiences. So we may go to some community events and there's a lot of papers that get handed out and blown around and recycled. We're much more about each of the vendors who comes to the JCC for this event. They have to come with an activity that it's going to be educational to do with the people who are coming from the community. And typically there's more things to do than there's time to do it. And that's kind of like what we like. Bruce Koehler, who was one of the founders and really chaired the program for many, many years, he said that we as adults didn't do as good a job as taking care of the environment as we could have or should have. And so what we're trying to do is educate the youth. And so our hope is always in the next generation that you always want your kids to do a better job than you do when they complete school or when they, in whatever their endeavors. And we certainly want our youth and those in the community to work to make a better environment. So on May 1st, with our partners at Citizens Energy and AES and others, we bring the community together for about from 1 to 4 p.m. This year, in the past, we've hosted it on the backside of the JCC. This year, we're actually hosting it right on the front of our property on Hoover Road, so everyone can see it. We will have electric vehicles that people can see. It's actually a new service from AES. Like if you want to lease or buy an electric vehicle, you need to go to a car dealership, but our electric company is trying to make it easy for us. So every month when you get your bill, you can actually get a lease or other payment. They'll even install the high voltage outlets. And so that will be really interesting because people love to see everything from the Leaf to the Audi Outron and the Tesla. They'll all be there at the JCC for viewing. In addition, Citizens Energy has some really great hands-on projects, and they've really done some educational pieces. One of the things that I remember learning a couple of years ago from Citizens Energy is that what you should and shouldn't flush down the toilet. And they actually had a mini model that you could actually flush, and they would show what happens when you actually flush the toilet. And the thing that I learned is that facial tissues should actually never go down the toilet because unlike toilet paper that are made to decompose when they're flushed, facial tissues are not meant to do that. So they actually clog up the sewage system and they clog up the water system. And so when you're done with the facial tissues, they need to go in the trash, not the toilet. And so that was just an interesting thing that I think for the majority of my life, I probably like everyone else, you're done blowing your nose and you throw it in the toilet, you flush the toilet, which is also wasteful for water. So I think there's really a lot of opportunities for us to work together with the community to educate them on the environment. For those who've never been to the JCC before, I thought I could give you a little bit about our history. We've been on this property here for over 65 years, but we've actually been in business for over 100 years. JCCs actually started as settlement houses. We helped immigrant Jews who were coming in from Europe find places to live, work. There's unfortunately still a pretty significant anti-Semitism in the United States and around the world. Back then in the turn of the century, it was very difficult for Jews to get jobs. So JCCs also became a vocational service provider as well as social service. Then over the decades, the Jewish community specialized. So the JCCs became the programmatic arm of the community, and we serve the broader community. We use our Jewish values to serve anyone who share those values to come into the center. The Jewish Federation is kind of like the United Way for the Jewish community locally and overseas. And then there's the Jewish Family Services, which is the therapeutic arm for people who need therapy and social services. And then there's the advocacy arm, which is the Jewish Community Relations Council. And each of these groups are separate 501c3s. Depending on the size of the Jewish and greater community, these organizations can be larger and smaller. If you go into the Washington, D.C. area, they have a huge JCRC. And in this community, we have a modest one, but certainly very active. And for our JCC, one of the things that I think we're noted for, and we have a really positive history, is as Jews, we know what it's like to be a minority and be discriminated against. So we have a very long history of being very inclusive to everyone in the community. And that reflects into the membership of the JCC, where nearly 70% of our 3,000 units, which is probably about 10,000 individuals, are actually from the broader community. So only about 30% of our membership is actually Jewish. It's a common question people ask is, do I need to be Jewish to join the JCC? And the community will tell you that 70% of them say, no, that's not the case. And we're really proud that we use our Jewish values to help better the broader and great community. And we partner with a lot of Jewish organizations, whether it's the Children's Bureau or Kids Voice, Youth Outreach. For the day of actual Earth Day, I'm not going to read you the 50 names that are coming. But Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, who does a great job of one of their main jobs is actually planting trees. I think their goal is to plant hundreds and hundreds of trees, and they have a contract with Marion County government to do that. So they'll be here talking about the important work they do. In addition, we've had some really unique vendors because we are a Jewish community center. We reached out to some of our sisters and brothers in Israel to look at what are they doing for green energy. So during COVID, we did a unique program, a virtual Earth Day program, and we had a company called Wave. They actually provide electric energy through collecting the movement of waves and converting it to electricity. And they actually provide that as a service to companies all over the world to reduce their energy expense footprint and improve the greening of the environment. We had another company come in there called WaterGen. And what they do is they use solar energy to dehumidify air and provide water to people in countries that would not have enough potable drinking water. And so those are some of the interesting, those vendors won't be here this year, but those are some of the interesting vendors. And then there's another vendor called Sol. They came here a couple of years ago, and what they do is they have a solar powered sampling system that will actually use Israel technology to sample the wetness of the soil and what the chemical needs are in terms of fertilization. And that reduces the amount of pollution instead of using the flood irrigation, which is very common in America, they use drip irrigation with solar powered cells that will actually give the amount of water and the amount of nutrition needed at the location where it's needed. So it's actually more economical and it's better for the environment. So there's some really neat tech that we bring on through our Earth Day program. And one of the things that we like to see happen is the vendors actually talk to each other and they can actually use what they learn to help provide additional environmental benefits, because as a group, we don't always get together to share this kind of information and benefit from it.
Eric,
yes.
Eric, could I interrupt? How many vendors do you think there'll be this year?
This year, there will be about 45 vendors. And all sorts of, there's a very broad array of vendors. Does anyone have any questions about Earth Day so far, in addition to the vendor count?
How important is it that the trees, and I know the forest there has been very much protected, those trees really suck out the carbon, don't they? And that's another issue that we were trying to educate. I know someone will be keeping Indianapolis beautiful. The trees that we don't cut down that are mature are sucking up this carbon and providing the oxygen for all of us to live. So maybe in a way we are exhibiting an example of that at our site.
Absolutely. And one of the things that trees also do is if you plant them in proximity to your house, you can actually save on electricity used for heating and cooling, because the trees will actually keep your house warmer or cooler seasonally, as well as ground cover. So there are things that you can do that it's not instant, but over time you can really help the environment and help your pocketbook by doing green strategies.
Are there some strategies that the center has already instituted that are sustainable, that are more sustainable than maybe a typical office building, a box building? I mean, have you been doing some things with this issue of keeping the heat in the winter and keeping it cool in the summer?
That's a really, really good question. So during COVID, one of the things that we did is there were federal and state grants. So over about a 2 or 3 year period, we replaced all of our compact fluorescent, which were still much more efficient than incandescent, with LED. And in the majority of our big rooms, our gymnasiums, our fitness centers, we actually saved about 1/3 of the electricity that we use just by moving to LED. In addition to that, the LEDs typically have about a 10-year lifespan. So the maintenance of not having to get up on a huge lift to get up to these very high ceilings to replace the lights saves us operational overhead, as well as electricity. And also the members appreciate it when it's not only clean, but when it's bright. And it takes a while to get these big lights in and replaced. So having LEDs just keeps us looking sharper and brighter. We also got grants through United Way to have a lot more touchless sinks and toilets. But in that process, we not only replaced them with touchless, we also put in a system that reduced the amount of water that we use. So the majority of our sinks in the buildings now they won't stay on forever. And that saves water for the environment. It also saves money in our water boilers because we're not running all the time when people leave the water running. And then we do have a control system. So we try to look at what's going on in the building and having hallway. You don't need to heat the hallways the same way you do a meeting room, and really look at the schedule of activities. So we really try to be proactive in how we're using heat or cooling in the building based on utilization. And then finally, we added a lot of motion equipment. So the heat as well as the electricity in parts of the building will cycle down if it doesn't detect movement for a period of time, which is good for the environment. And again, it helps the environment. And as a nonprofit, anything we can do to reduce our overhead without reducing the quality and the service to our community is really important.
Are there programs, or do you contemplate programs in the future that would educate those who use the facility about the things you're speaking about sustainability at their own homes, at their own synagogues, at their own churches, at their own, can the Jewish Community Center continue leadership in the community in regards to the items that you're talking about? And I know you have really worked hard on this sustainability as a core value. Can that philosophy affect the entire community?
Absolutely. So as part of our annual Ann Katz Festival of Books and the Arts, we actually bring in authors and speakers, and we screen films. So we actually brought in several authors, people who are expert in creating LEEDs building. And LEEDs is a certification that you can get when building a building that shows how green and efficient it is in terms of sustaining the environment. So the woman we brought in last year, what she did is she worked in a building that was about 100 years old, and over a period of time, they rebuilt systems as well as replaced it with green roof and other systems to get a much higher LEED certification than something that was 100 years old. So we try to get people who are practical, because a lot of their ideas are like, it's good to be an ideator, like thinking about a lot of interesting ideas is important, but if you can't practically implement them. And at the JCC, we're very practical here. We're a nonprofit. We don't have time to just sit in rooms and come up with great ideas. We have to be things that we can use. And so we try to bring in programs that would be meaningful to you that you can use in your own home. And fortunately, if you do get energy through citizens, you can actually come to their house and they'll do an assessment for free, and they'll give you a lot of free stuff. One of the things they did in my home is they replaced my thermostats with these Wi-Fi thermostats, and it's a smart thermostat, so it kind of learns when you're coming in and coming out, and that actually has saved a significant amount of electricity for my home, and it helps out the community, because during times when there's high electricity demand, it reduces the need, because I'm part of a program where they can either raise or lower the temperature during times that will reduce brownouts. So there's all sorts of things that can be done. And I hope you will come on Earth Day to experience some of the educational opportunities, be part of the community energy, and maybe take a couple ideas back to your homes or to your churches or to your places of work, because there are a lot of things that can be done without significant expense in your pocketbook.
As well as being, another idea I just thought about is having a seminar on smart buying. In other words, look at when you're buying an automobile or buying a dishwasher, what's the efficiency? What efficiencies can be encouraged to look at compared to what, whether you purchase things for the Jewish Community Center or yourself, can't you do something to make something a little bit better? It's amazing how many little things add up in our society. I mean, just everyone buying a more efficient, or every church or center or whatever buying a more efficient dishwasher. It's astounding how much reduction in the use of coal might occur, so that there's more of a leg up for other energy sources to compete, as we are doing. Have you looked at anything there at the center, and I don't know if you have or not, about any solar technology yet, about what's going on in this field, which is so explosive as far as use of solar power?
We've actually looked at solar power extensively. Indiana does not have as a robust solar energy program as they do like in Massachusetts. So in Massachusetts, if you were a residential homeowner, you could buy solar panels if you lived in the right, if your roof was facing the right direction and you weren't living in the woods, and you'd have no out-of-pocket costs, and you'd save about 20 to 30% a month on your electricity bill and install solar panels. Indiana, there's some federal rebates. The state ones are very, very modest. We are looking to renovate the JCC in the next 3 to 5 years. And part of that process is once we have the final footprint of our roof, we will make the parts of the roof that are not covered with HVAC equipment green roofs along with solar panels. And that could save the center significant dollars. That in combination with battery collectors. So there's in some communities, you can actually resell the electricity back to the providers, or you can actually create your own battery. So at night, it can draw off that energy and use it to offset using less electricity. So by the time we go through that process, we'll have a good answer about which is the best way to go for us. But we are certainly looking into that seriously. And I think the biggest way that we can save energy is to change how we generate energy at the power plants. Bill Gates gave a talk. He said something like, if every car in the world became electric, that would still only be about a 5 or 10% difference. But changing how we generate electricity makes a huge difference. So going to an LED light bulb, so there's less electricity generation, and working with the electric companies to get more green energy generation, that makes a huge impact in the environment. And then the more we can do to create a natural environment with trees and ground cover, it has a huge benefits, both in terms of ear health, ground health, and water health.
Other questions? Questions for Eric about things that you want to know about the Jewish Community Center, or about the center and what its activities are, and how it fits into our community?
I was wondering, why you think, Eric, that Indiana has been so slow at turning towards alternative energies such as solar?
So I'm going to say two things. One, we don't have the density of population of some other states in the Northeast. And because of that, they've had more electricity challenges, and there's less space to build electricity generating opportunities. And so they actually found out it was cheaper for them to incentivize consumers by helping pay for solar panels than building more power plants. We haven't got to that tipping point in Indiana yet. And so I think it's probably a financial decision. On the other hand, if you drive to the airport, we have a very huge solar farm. And I remember reading a couple months ago that there's going to be some additional solar farms being built in Indiana because we have the space in terms of land. So we're doing well in some areas and maybe not as well in other areas.
Carol, if I could jump in there, because this is one of my pet peeves. Obviously, Indiana has been dependent upon coal, and coal, but coal miners are losing their jobs, and the amount of coal is being reduced as an energy source. So I think as far as jobs are concerned, I think we are, as Eric said, kind of on the tipping edge of a new technology that will generate energy from, as we already see up north, the windmills and my goodness, look at the windmills and the solar panels that are existent. There has been a substantial amount of political pressure from the coal industry to continue coal, clean or dirty. And so the problem is that industry going to mutate into some kind of a more of a green energy? That's inevitable. I believe that's absolutely inevitable, because jobs are the key. I can tell you that as a judge, I've met more than a few miners that have lost their jobs due to the fact that the coal industry is not productive. And yet they are being retrained at Ivy Tech and other places to get into this green technology. So yeah, it's slow, Carol, and there's political pressure on the change. But yeah, it is inevitable. The windmills are just astounding up north if you look at that. And that's coming from winds from the sun. So, we have some, but we're not encouraging it like California, as you know, where they sell it back. And of course, that's an entrenched, you're attacking an entrenched industry. And while utilities have to bend to the times, to the future. So we can't just say, oh, okay, we're just going to use coal and that pollution's going to go up in the air and it's not going to be counted as a part of our gross national product. It's a negative. So yeah, there has to be some big thinking here, and it's coming. I'm not pessimistic.
And you can now buy, like on my electricity bill, we chose to spend like $3 more a month, and they buy green energy.
That's right.
I trust that they do it, but
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can buy green energy by a few extra dollars already.
Yeah.
Through your bill. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Eric, I'd be curious how the JCC got through COVID. We used to have 45 people a meeting, and the Zoom remote kind of contrast has been hard to keep everybody on the same page. I mean, looking at your website, holy cow, do you guys have a robust lineup of activities? But how would you describe the COVID process?
So COVID was a really challenging time. We generate about 75% of our operating revenue from program participation. So that makes us healthy, because that means we're 75% independent. The rest of it's contributed income. And we were in big trouble when we got closed down, along with probably most of the nonprofits. And what we did is we actually opened our books to the community, and we told the community that we don't have cash reserves. This was before PPP, so nobody knew about that because it wasn't an idea yet. And we said, if you think we're important, and we think we are an important community organization, that we serve young families through early childhood, we serve summertime for camp. After retirees, families, fitness, and without the community to continue to support us, we may not be able to open whenever it is that we could open. And I had a series of Zoom calls with the community to share our financial position. And then we asked people to consider keep paying their program fees, even though we're not open. And 90% of our community helped us. You all helped us because, United Way and at Federation, other organizations, there was no money at that time. And we were literally counting how many days of cash till we were out. And the community, we've been here for the community for 100 years, and the community was here for us. And it gave us goosebumps because it was a scary time. We also had to lay off a significant number of staff. It was probably the worst time. Anyone who's run a nonprofit who had to go through it will tell you it's the worst time in their career. But we're the stronger and better for it. And I think our close ties with the community are even closer now. I appreciate you asking that question.
We're hoping that those who come to the Earth Day, even for a few minutes on May 1st, who may not be acquainted with what we are and what is there inside and out, might be, enticed to look at the possibilities of a place for exercise, for walking in the woods, for looking at where the boxes are for the birds, for looking at what this has become, sports for the kids, et cetera. There's so many opportunities. And really Earth Day is trying to let everyone know that we do care about the environment, and we do care about economics, and we do care about health, among other things, and we do care about our community. So yeah, there is a partnership here, but I would encourage all of you just to stop over, find a parking place, and just take a look. Take a look at what is being done here with Eric's help and the committee. And it seems to me that it's there are things in our lives that we support, okay, that we want to support. Can't support everything. I know that, although I try to. Just look at this as possible, something to support. Whether you're Jewish, non-Jewish, Muslim, whatever faith, whatever race, whatever you are, look at this possibility of some class or some book fair or something there that would entice you.
Thank you, Greg. And we don't turn anyone away for lack of ability to pay. So whether someone wants to participate in a program or camp or membership, we ensure that the JCC is accessible to anyone who has a real need. So please send anyone to the J. We will take, what we like to say is that once you join the JCC, you're part of our family. And we want the community to be part of the JCC family.
Were there any other chat? There are a couple of chat. Anyone else have thoughts about anything here?
Eric, with your roots of helping immigrants get settled and find a place in the new community in the Midwest, we have recently given some money to a nonprofit focusing on immigrants, Ukraine. Have you guys seen any particular activity around people coming over from Eastern Europe?
We've just had our first and second families from Ukraine come, and we provided them 100% scholarship to our membership. So we've seen our first two families. Hopefully we'll see more. And we are happy to help them acclimate and be part of the community and make sure that they feel welcomed and comfortable. It's a terrible time, but this is an opportunity for us to show them some real Hoosier hospitality and show them that wherever they come in Indiana, they're going to be supported and welcomed.
And one of those issues is language, Eric.
Yes.
One of those language issues is how to the language here and coming from Ukraine. So I remember that Eric, we did this for many Russian immigrants in years past. So I'm really glad to hear that you're beginning that process. I think it's going to be more than two.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the whole community is going to want to help those who make it here. They need to obviously need everything, just like our ancestors did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, we're very blessed here. I'm sure everyone on the call, we don't have issues with paying rent or mortgages or food instability. And so I feel as individuals and organizations in the community, it's our obligation to pay it forward to others and to help them. So at some point, they'll be able to do the same thing for others. And so keeping the environment healthy, keeping our community healthy, taking care of each other, especially in a time of division, there's a lot more in common with each other than there is not in common. And so part of our mission at the JCC is to highlight the commonalities, make people feel a sense of community and safety, and whether it's conversation or activity through what we do at the J. So I hope you will come and join us on the 1st of May, and certainly any other day, we'd love to have you.
Eric,
Yes.
yes. First of all, I have in the past come to the JCC for water aerobics, wonderful class. And I'm looking forward to Earth Day, coming to see the electric cars. So what are the hours again that they'll
It's
be there?
gonna be from 1 to 4 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being part of our aquatics program.
And I also saw that that the activities are listed. I think in you're going to have information on all the information on all the activities when people come there. There'll be a little something.
Yeah.
Remember, the event is free, but it is something that is a community welcoming, and it is not something that, as you said, we've been doing for 10 years. Look at some of those trees that are getting bigger and sucking out some of that CO2. There are also some bird boxes actually that are active that we have been putting in over the years through Audubon, and they're around. So yeah, well, it's kind of a unique little situation, and I'm so glad that in the center of this residential Greenbrier whatever area that we have such a unbelievably nice campus, as you know, and we've had great speakers from. I don't want to lastly indicate that one of the things we've had is this book fair where various famous authors come and speak about their books, and about some of them are related to the environment, some aren't. E.J. Dionne was around recently, and others, and these people they think a lot of the JCC, and their books are also very very stimulating to read. And again, whatever you want to do, try this and see if this is an opportunity that fits into your lifestyle.
If you go to the website, there's a lot of good information about who all the vendors are and a lot of the other activities that are going on.
Thank you, Art. Appreciate that.
Well, unless there's some other questions, I want to thank everyone for being here. I know this is on YouTube for anyone that wants to see it later and otherwise. And of course, thanks Kelly for all this, making this possible. Kelly always, yeah. And is there anything else Carol, anything else that you want to? I want to thank Eric very much for being here. I know you have something for him.
Eric, this was a really interesting and fun presentation. I know when I was in my older sister years ago, she worked at the JCC and all summer and just loved it. I retain that memory of that. We are so happy that you were able to join us today, and in expression of our appreciation for your being a part of us, we are going to make a donation in your honor to the Indiana Youth Group. This is a group that creates special and safer spaces for foster children in the community, and provides programming that empowers the LGBTQ youth and helps to magnify their voices.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know the CEO at that organization. She's a good colleague and they do amazing work. So I'm very touched that you did that. Thank you.
Well, thank you once again. And it was really fun having you as a part of our club today. We're still working back and forth on Zoom and in person and trying to figure those things out. So I can imagine how that this past year and a half has impacted your community and its activities. So good luck to you, and thank you for all that you do for all of us. It's a wonderful organization.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and thank you for the opportunity to share and speak with you. And I'm grateful for your invitation and being able to get to know you. And I hope I get to meet more of you in person, if not on Earth Day, and other days at the JCC.
I encourage everybody, as Eric has done, to mark that day on their calendar, and encourage all of you to join in and be a part of that wonderful celebration. So thank you, Eric, once again. And we hope to see you and members of your community on Earth Day and be a part of that celebration.
Yes, every day is Earth Day. Thank you so much.
All
Have a
right.
good day.
Thanks, Greg.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Carol.